Did so much crazy stuff over the last 2 weeks. It would take a 9-part Ken Burns documentary series to cover it all, but I'm going to do my best to boil it down. You know, he hosted an award show over the break. After boasting about what a great host he is and how much better he is than I am and how huge his ratings would be, Trump hosted the lowest rated Kennedy Center honors telecast of all time. I'll tell you something. I'd hate to be the White House intern that had to tear that headline out of all the papers and eat them.
Everybody hit subscribe. Let's get to 7 million subscribers. Thanks for watching.
Tonight, I'm inviting every legislator to join with my administration in reaffirming a fundamental principle. If you agree with this statement, then stand up and show your support. The first duty of the American government is to protect American citizens, not illegal aliens.
He's so stupid. Look at the lame, inane things that he said. He's so stupid, he can't even say anything clever or smooth. He's a moron. But he's a scary one. And in all seriousness, and we know it here, people have to get out and vote and vote and vote and vote.
Yeah. One time each. Do you think he pretends to be dumber than he is to confuse people and make them think? No, you think he's
no. I don't think so.
Why do you think? I'm curious why you would guess that there's a big group of people in this country who believe that he cares about them.
I am totally dumbfounded, baffled by that. I can't understand it, and it's a thing that we've seen over decades and decades, and he's a what's it, Tammy Faye and the other one?
Yes.
It's the same thing, give us your money, we're going to save you. Yeah, televangelist. Yeah. It's just the same thing, and it's so obvious. I just don't understand people could buy it. I just don't know. It's all an act in a certain way. It's all out of insecurity. He's deeply, deeply insecure. He is a malignant narcissist. He's a socio-psychopath. He's created some new language as far as describing somebody in his mental condition. It's so frightening and scary, and he's dangerous. We got to get rid of him.
Do you ever?
And shame on those Republicans that don't have the nerve, the balls to go after him. What do they tell their kids? What do they tell their grandkids later when it's written in history books what their role is and what they did, and they allowed him to do this?
Donald Trump is panicking as talks with Iran before the ceasefire expires have fallen apart, frankly, before the talks even took place in Islamabad for a second round of discussions. Donald Trump continues a naval blockade of the Persian Gulf. Iran says it has no interest in negotiating with Donald Trump while a naval blockade remains in place by the United States, and while Donald Trump continues to lie about the terms of negotiation, and while Donald Trump and the Trump regime continues to threaten the Iranian regime and continues to threaten to blow up bridges, energy infrastructure, and other civilian infrastructure in Iran. Iran says they will not be negotiating from a position where they're constantly threatened by Donald Trump and where he contradicts his position each day. Meanwhile, Donald Trump was on CNBC earlier this morning where he said that he expects bombs to be dropping soon, and he expects the ceasefire to end and Iranian war to resume. Donald Trump casually said that as he also attacked NATO and made a number of other deranged comments. Let me share with you what went down this morning. Now, a social media account that is closely linked with MB Ghalibaf, Iran's parliament leader, posted the following: as long as the naval blockade continues, negotiations with the United States will effectively remain stalled. America has so far assaulted 2 Iranian ships. With the end of the ceasefire deadline, the military response to the maritime blockade will begin. That ceasefire is set to expire very soon, and the Trump regime boarded another Iranian-backed ship this morning as well, while these purported negotiations were potentially going to take place. And again, Iran viewed the fact that the United States Navy boarded another Iranian-backed ship as an action that was not conducive to productive negotiations. Here's a strategic assessment from that same account, closely linked with Iran's lead negotiator, MB Ghalibaf. The ceasefire will end around 3 a.m. on Wednesday, Tehran time. The enemy's behavioral pattern indicates that the strike will be delivered before this hour. Iran will respond to any strike with an unlimited retaliation. The United States faces very serious operational constraints and knows that returning to war would not achieve its goals, but rather distance it further from them. For this reason, the United States is currently pressuring Pakistan to accept negotiations on behalf of Iran and extend the ceasefire deadline by 1 week. In Iran, there are no signs that a reasonable and sustainable agreement with the United States is attainable. Then from Iran.
Robert De Niro looked a reporter dead in the eye outside the United States Supreme Court with cameras rolling and was asked what specifically bothers him about Donald Trump. He paused, and then he said one word: everything. Not corruption, not the war, not the lies, not the pardons, not the AI Jesus picture, not the ballroom, everything. And Donald Trump saw that clip, sat at whatever screen he was watching at midnight, and posted on Truth Social that De Niro is a sick and demented person with an extremely low IQ. That's what the most powerful man in the world had to say. And De Niro still didn't blink. We're going to spill all the tea here, but before we move further, I have a request to make. If you are enjoying our content and want to support us, please join the membership. That's just $9 a month. It's less than a coffee cup, but it fuels independent journalism, and soon we may also be able to serve you ad-free content here. Back to the topic. Let me build this story from the beginning, because Robert De Niro's war with Donald Trump is not a recent thing. It is not something that started when Trump became president. It has been building for years through documented statements, through public speeches, through tearful podcast appearances, through showing up at courthouses and rally stages and Supreme Court hearings, and every single time De Niro says something, Trump loses his mind. Every single time. Without fail. And the meltdown keeps getting more unhinged. Let's go through all of it. Robert De Niro is 82 years old. He has 2 Academy Awards. He has played Travis Bickle, Jake LaMotta, Vito Corleone, Jimmy Conway, Al Capone. He is the man who spent decades studying dangerous men from the inside, inhabiting their psychology, their rage, their delusion. And his verdict on Donald Trump, after years of watching him operate, is a verdict you cannot dismiss.
Trump just, he said 0 illegal aliens have been allowed to the United States on his watch, but the door is always open to those who come in legally to be his next wife. So that's something. He bragged about ending DEI. He bragged about kicking 2 million people off food stamps. It was like a Christmas message from the Grinch. Trump applauded the efforts of a World War II vet who liberated an internment camp.
We have breaking news. The president is giving an update on social media about the strikes in Iran. Let's take a listen.
Over the past 36 hours, the United States and its partners have launched Operation Epic Fury, one of the largest, most complex, most overwhelming military offensives the world has ever seen. Nobody's seen anything like it. We have hit hundreds of targets in Iran, including Revolutionary Guard facilities.
Tasman Media, their state-run media, says the following. J.D. Vance has been on his way to Pakistan since 3 nights ago, but hasn't set off yet. Trump's ridiculous announcements and American media reports about this country's negotiating team show no sign of stopping. For example, do you remember that since 3 days ago, American media were saying Vance was on his way to Pakistan? They actually said that last Thursday there was going to be talks in Pakistan. We just wanted to let you know, the Iranian media is saying to its people. We just wanted to let you know that CNN, the American media outlet, has reported in its latest news that it's unclear when Vance, Trump's vice president, will depart from the United States. In other words, Vance, who's supposedly been en route to Islamabad, Pakistan for the past 3 days, according to these media reports, in order to negotiate with Iran, still hasn't even taken off yet. However, American media essentially doesn't even need to admit that they were constantly lying. They just say every few hours that an informed source claims so-and-so and is on the way. The fact that then why has he been on the way for all these hours and still not only hasn't arrived, but hasn't even taken off yet? Well, that must not detract one bit from their values. Meanwhile, Major General Abu Dali, the commander within the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, says, if the U.S. attacks again, we are ready to give a strong and final response to the enemy. Now, I don't want to hear Donald Trump's voice this morning. I don't know about you, but let me share with you what he said on CNBC this morning when he called in. And there's that sycophantic, bootlicking host on CNBC, Joe Kiernan, and he was the one who interviewed Donald Trump. It was gross. That's why I don't even want to hear their voices. But here's what was said. Donald Trump said in response to a question, you're saying you need at least the prospect for a signed deal today and tomorrow, or else you would resume bombing Iran? Trump responds, well, I expect there to be bombing. Donald Trump then said, I don't want to extend the ceasefire. I don't want to extend it at all. He then went on to say, we caught a ship yesterday that had some things on it that weren't very nice. A gift from China, perhaps? I don't know. I am surprised. I thought I had an understanding with President Xi Jinping. So what are you going to do about it, Donald? Are you going to cancel your trip to China in May? Are you going to stop selling semiconductors to China and charging a fee for it? What are you going to do, Donald?
He doesn't say Trump is bad politics. He doesn't say Trump has wrong policies. He says Trump is damaged. He says Trump is evil. He says Trump is destroying the country. And he has been saying it with more consistency, more clarity, and more raw emotion than almost anyone else in public life. We New Yorkers used to tolerate Trump, De Niro has said, when he was just another grubby real estate hustler masquerading as a big shot, a two-bit playboy lying his way into the tabloids, a clown. That quote has been documented, verified, published. It's on tape. De Niro said it standing outside the courthouse during Trump's hush money trial in 2024, flanked by Capitol police officers who got beaten defending the building on January 6th. He wasn't acting. He wasn't performing. He was a New Yorker who knew this man, who watched him move through the social world of Manhattan for decades, who saw what Trump actually is up close, and he gave his verdict in the plainest language possible. A clown, a grubby real estate hustler, masquerading as a big shot. Drop a comment right now if you think De Niro has been saying this for years and nobody listened hard enough. Because I think the timeline matters. The confrontation started escalating in 2018 when De Niro walked on stage at the Tony Awards and said 2 words before introducing Bruce Springsteen.
I mean, it doesn't make sense when you really go through it, but thousands of true believers were up bright and early in Gobbler's Knob, Pennsylvania, where I am sad to report Punxsutawney Phil came out of his hole, saw the Epstein files, went right back in, and hung himself. He's dead. For all the Mondays we've done this show, and I think we've done like 800 or 900 Monday shows, I don't know that we've ever had more madness to go through. There's so much. I'll start with what we know. On Friday morning, the ironically titled Department of Justice.
Mr. President, when you have the Board of Peace, obviously there's a lot of countries that you're trying to get on. What countries would you like to see join the Board of Peace the most?
Well, we have a lot that are on, and we have a lot that are going through the process of getting on. They have to get legislative approval, etc. And we've had billions of dollars put up already by the countries that are on. You saw some of the big players today. It's been very successful. Everyone's going to want to be on. Everyone wants to be on. Some have to go back to their legislatures to get approval.
Would you want like China or Russia, any of those guys?
I would love to have China and Russia. They've been invited. Yeah.
Something we got a lot of.
You need both. You need all persuasions. No discrimination.
Donald Trump goes on to say, we totally won the war. I wish you could hear the conversations we're having with the Iranians. That's what they're telling us. They're telling us you totally won the war. I mean, Donald Trump is absolutely delusional, and these psychotic statements do not help at all. Donald, look, if you want to negotiate with Iran, behave like a grown-up and negotiate. If you don't want to negotiate and you want to risk the lives of hundreds of thousands of our service members who will likely get killed in a ground invasion in your unlawful and catastrophic war, if that's that's the route you're going to go. Try to sell that to the American people. And then we think you should be locked up in the freaking Hague. But right now, what you're doing with your social media posts and all caps, Iran better do this, or calling in Joe Kiernan on CNBC, it's pathetic. It's weak. Iran realizes how weak it is. They realize that you're terrified and scared of war, but you want to talk a big game right now. So what are you going to do, Donald? What are you going to do? You think you're going to BS your way out of it? Then he goes on to say, I kid you not, this is a direct quote from Donald Trump. Quote, I would have won Vietnam very quickly. I would have made Vietnam look very easy. I would have won Vietnam very quickly. I would have done it much better than they did it. You dodged the draft. You claimed you had bone spurs in order to not be drafted in Vietnam. And now here you are in 2026, sacrificing America's post-World War II power abroad, engaging in all these unlawful and catastrophic wars. And you have the audacity to say you would have won the Vietnam War easily, a war that you dodged the draft 5 separate times for. I mean, isn't this the most pathetic, vile piece of trash that exists? Gutter trash is who he is. And I formed that opinion after reading things like that. Vile trash. And that's why I didn't want to hear his voice say these things. If you want to go and hear it, you can watch the CNBC interview we posted on various social media. I don't want to hear him this morning because it's so damn freaking pathetic. Then Donald Trump says, I took over Venezuela in 45 minutes. I made it look easy.
Two words that got a standing ovation from a room full of people who worked in American theater and had watched this president attack artists, attack the press, attack democratic institutions for 2 solid years. He said, forget it. He said the other 2 words that the whole country was thinking. He got a standing ovation. And Trump woke up to it the next morning and fired back on Twitter. That was the beginning of a pattern that has continued without interruption for 7 straight years. In 2021, when Trump's supporters stormed the Capitol, De Niro recorded a statement that became one of the most watched videos of that entire period. He called Trump a failed leader who would go down in history as the worst president ever. He said Trump sought a coup by misleading people with lies. He said January 6th was the night of broken glass right here in the United States. And then he connected it to something more personal. He said he grew up in New York and he knew this man, and what he saw on January 6th was not a surprise to anyone who had paid attention to who Donald Trump really is. Trump's response every single time is the same. Same playbook, same 2 moves. First, he calls De Niro low IQ. Then he claims De Niro is irrelevant, a failing actor, a washed-up Hollywood crybully. But here's what gives the game away completely. If De Niro were truly irrelevant, Trump wouldn't post about him. Trump posts about the things that scare him. He posts about the people who get to him. And Robert De Niro has been getting to him for 7 consecutive years.
You know, as I recall, he said he would step down if this happened, right? He said, if I can't beat out Jimmy Kimmel, then I don't think I should be president. And, well, hey, a deal is a deal. Back to Mar-a-Lago you go. We also missed out on this gem from December 19th when, at a rally in North Carolina, he finally broke his silence on the First Lady's underpants.
Her undergarments, I want to use a nice, sometimes referred to as panties.
That's right, sometimes. I can't think of a more...
Isn't that a shame? You should be ashamed of yourself not standing up. You should be ashamed of yourself. That is why I'm also asking you to end deadly sanctuary cities that protect the criminals and enact serious penalties for public officials who block the removal of criminal aliens. In many cases, drug lords, murderers all over our country, they're blocking the removal of these people out of our country, and you should be ashamed of yourself.
Everybody knows that the United States can flex its military muscle and take over a country like Venezuela. And if we wanted to, then work with their authoritarian regime to prop up more of these Chavistas. That's not a difficult concept. The issue is now you've destroyed an international world order where might makes right, and that's not what it should be. Just because you're more powerful, it doesn't mean you dominate and you destroy your neighbors, because then that sends the message to China. Oh, should we do that with Taiwan? It sends the message to Russia. Oh, I guess we can do what we're doing to our neighbors. neighbors, right? That's why you create a stable international order, not say, oh, I could take over a country in 45 minutes. Look how powerful. Well, we know we have the most powerful military. Just because you're powerful doesn't mean you walk around and start punching people outside because you have big muscles. That's just not the way you're supposed to behave. And it makes you look weak and pathetic, actually, that you're out there bragging about it. And it creates a situation where World War III is more likely. Then Donald Trump's like, I have all the time in the world to make a great deal. I'm in no rush for anything. I have all the time in the world. Then you had Pete Hegseth posted a message today. And Pete Hegseth's big message today, can you guess what it is? Here's what Hegseth said. Let's play it.
Under President Trump, the War Department continues to take decisive action to once again restore freedom and strength to our joint force. We're seizing this moment to discard any absurd, overreaching mandates that only weaken our warfighting capabilities. In this case, this includes the universal flu vaccine and the mandate behind it. The notion that a flu vaccine must be mandatory for every service member everywhere in every circumstance at all times is just overly broad. And
back to more of these ridiculous comments from Donald Trump. Trump's like, our Middle East allies are much better than our NATO allies. Okay, just attacking NATO. Then Donald Trump is asked, is there some type of currency swap, some type of bailout for the United Arab Emirates to help them? Are you going to try to bail out the UAE? Trump goes, it's under consideration. It's been a good country. So you know the way we bailed out Argentina? Now we're going to do bailouts of the United Arab Emirates. So while your health care is being ripped away, while you can't afford rent in a home, while you can't afford anything here in the United States, now we're doing bailouts of Dubai.
Now let's get to what happened in February 2026. Because this is the moment that broke Trump's midnight composure completely. De Niro appeared on Nicole Wallace's podcast and said everything, all of it. He said Trump is destroying the country. His voice cracked. He said it's sick, it's messed up, we have to save the country. He said Trump is the enemy of this country. Let's not kid ourselves, it's that simple. He said people have to resist. And then he got asked the question that every politician and pundit is terrified to answer honestly. Do you think Trump will actually leave office at the end of his second term? De Niro said no, flat out, no. He said he will never leave. Let's not kid ourselves. He will not leave. He jokes now about nationalizing the elections. He's not joking. We've seen enough already. We have to make him leave. It's up to us to get rid of him. That is not the language of a celebrity doing a press tour. That is an 82-year-old man who has spent his whole life studying power and violence, and what happens when dangerous men go unchecked, saying plainly, this president is not going to voluntarily surrender his power, and the country is going to have to fight him for it. And Trump watched that interview. Because Trump always watches, he posted on Truth Social calling De Niro a sick and demented person with an extremely low IQ who has absolutely no idea what he is doing or saying, some of which is seriously criminal.
To $1.85 a gallon? When you ramble mostly incoherently for 2 hours, is that technically still a speech, or does it at some point become a conniption fit? It is amazing. We put him on all the channels to say this stuff. Trump told us in advance that the speech was going to be long, and for once he was telling the truth. We were waiting for the speech to finish before we started shooting the show. He went on so long we had to start before he said, he's probably still going, right? Which is a problem because Mike Johnson's bedtime is 9 o'clock.
Iranian air defense systems. Just now it was announced that we knocked out 9 ships plus their naval building, all in a matter of literally minutes. Iran's formerly supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, is dead. This wretched and vile man had the blood of hundreds and even thousands of Americans on his hands and was responsible for the slaughter of countless thousands of innocent people all across many countries.
We're doing bailouts of Abu Dhabi. We're doing bailouts of sultans and kings and in the Middle East. That's what we're doing right now under Donald Trump. So utterly pathetic. And then Joe Kiernan says the following to Donald Trump. And again, this is why I don't even want to listen to these people's voices. Here's what Kiernan says. I know, Donald, how much you respect and admire and are concerned with the Iranian people. This is in large degree one of the reasons you decided to embark on one of these things, because you care about them. By the way, this is one of the sociopathic, malignant, narcissistic views of authoritarians in general. It's what Putin says about Ukraine. I killed all of the Ukrainians because I love them. You remember the song from Hamilton? Just the way I say I love you is by sending my army to invade you. I love you. That's how I express it. That's the authoritarian. I'm killing them. I'm killing the little girls. I'm engaging in a genocide. I'm destroying them. That's how I share my love. It's sicko stuff. It's Hitler stuff. It's Mussolini stuff. It's historical authoritarian stuff. And that's what's going on CNBC freaking C. That's what you're sharing on CNBC? Are you kidding me? What the hell is this ridiculous propaganda on CNBC? It is horrific. A business network nonetheless. Why? Market manipulation is what's going down. Market manipulation. Let's hear from what the Pakistan information minister has said. Formal response from Iranian side about confirmation of delegation to attend Islamabad peace talks is still awaited. Ceasefire ends 4:50 a.m. Pacific time. That's Tehran, PST, April 22nd. Decision from Iran to attend the talks before the end of the 2-week ceasefire is critical. Why would Iran want to show up when Donald Trump's engaged in that behavior? While he has a naval blockade and while he's attacking Iranian ships during a ceasefire negotiation and while Trump threatens to obliterate their civilization, the escalation approach by Donald Trump, where he's not actually going to back it up by a ground invasion, which Iran, it's not helping anything. It's just making negotiations more difficult. Earlier this morning, I shared with you the reporting from CNN, which has all this leaked information from our generals and admirals who are out there basically saying Trump is making it impossible to actually make any deal with Iran or to do anything because he's too scared of ground invasion and committing forces.
He said watching De Niro cry was like watching a child, and said De Niro may be even sicker than crazy Rosie O'Donnell. He suggested De Niro should get on a boat and leave the country. Get on a boat. The President of the United States suggested a 2-time Academy Award winner should leave the country because he cried on a podcast while saying he loves it. Let that absorb for a second. De Niro's voice cracked, talking about lifting people up and bringing the country together. Trump's response was to post at midnight comparing him to Rosie O'Donnell and suggesting deportation, and people still ask why De Niro won't stop. Join the membership right now. $9 a month, less than a coffee, and it keeps this independent journalism going every single day. Link is below. Then came the No Kings protests, and this is where De Niro showed up in full force. Not on a podcast, not in a prepared statement, but physically, in the streets, at the rallies, with hundreds of thousands of Americans who had decided enough was enough. De Niro addressed the crowd and said, the original No Kings protest was 250 years ago. Americans decided they didn't want to live under the rule of King George III. They declared their independence and fought a bloody war for democracy. We've had 2.5 centuries of democracy since then, often challenging, sometimes messy, always essential. Now we have a would-be king who wants to take it away. King Donald I. We're rising up again, this time non-violently, raising our voices to declare, no kings, King Donald I.
Half of the Epstein files. They were supposed to release all of them on December 19th of last year. That obviously didn't happen. They claimed they needed time to redact the names of the victims, but whether intentionally or as a result of incompetence or a combination of both, they released thousands of files that did not have the names or photos of many of the victims redacted, but they did do a pretty decent job of redacting the names of the victimizers. There are many disturbing accounts of questionable activity in emails, notes, text messages, etc., and about a lot of famous people, including Bill Gates, Steve Bannon.
You've got thousands of businesses all over the country the same exact thing. We've taken it away. They were ripping us off. Every country in the world was ripping us off. And to think that we have to be before the Supreme Court on a thing like this. Here's a man virtually going out of business, and now he's got a thriving business, hiring people, can't get enough people. And it's all because of tariffs. I had Novartis come in yesterday, a big drug company. They're building 11 factories, 11 drug plants for prescription drugs in the United States. I said, why are you doing that? He said, one reason, tariffs.
And he doesn't want to be able to actually give anything in a negotiation. So he runs around contradicting himself, ranting and raving like a lunatic, and it's not helping anybody at all. But meanwhile, Lloyd's List did a report where they claim that 28 shadow tankers belonging to Iran, both cargo ships and ships containing crude have been able to leave already and evade the blockade. The Trump regime claims that they were able to stop about 28 ships using the blockade. And again, there's a murky information environment, to say the least. But one of the things that we saw from tankertrackers.com, a national Iranian VLCC supertanker departed Iran in late March 2026, swam on over to this archipelago where she transferred her 2 million barrels of crude oil. She then returned home via the blockade line, and she'll reach Karg Island tomorrow. As Iranian's Fars news agency says, another Iranian tanker breaches the U.S. siege. A super tanker owned by National Iranian Tanker Company departed in March 2026 and got past the blockade. Then there was more information about this morning of additional ships getting through the blockade as well. And then you have Donald Trump making posts like this. Here's Donald Trump's post right now. Iran has violated the ceasefire numerous times. Never allow the traitor Democrats like low IQ person Hakeem Jeffries. And that's what Donald Trump refers to black people as. Look, his insult for black people is always low IQ, whoever the black person he's attacking, because Trump's a racist. That's why. Or the totally corrupt fake news media, such as the phony and decaying Wall Street Journal and the failing New York Times, or dying 60 Minutes to demean Operation Midnight Hammer, where you claimed you obliterated all of Iran's nuclear weapons, but now you're saying they have nuclear weapons and nuclear material. Okay, Donald. And then Donald Trump makes another post this morning. I've always been a big fan of Tim Cook. And likewise, Steve Jobs. When I got a call from Tim Cook, I said, wow, it's Tim Apple Cook calling. How big is that? I was very impressed with myself to have the head of Apple calling to kiss my ass. That's what you're posting right now, of all things, with everything going on. That's what you're posting. Also, Pope Leo XIV made the following post. He ain't holding back, Pope Leo XIV. Here's what he goes. Without a change of direction in the assumption of political responsibility and without respect for institutions and international agreements, humanity's destiny risks being tragically compromised. God does not want this. His holy name must not be profaned by the desire for domination, arrogance, or discrimination. Above all, it must never be invoked to justify death-dealing choices and actions. Powerful words there by Pope Leo XIV, who, as I mentioned before, is not holding back at all. Iran's broadcasting network says no Iranian diplomatic delegation, be it primary or secondary team or initial or follow-up mission, has traveled to Islamabad, Pakistan so far. And then we're hearing as well, Iran official denies any delegation has arrived in Pakistan for negotiations with the U.S., calling reports of each talks baseless and fabricated. Then they claim the U.S. delegation has arrived in Pakistan. J.D. Vance ain't there. What are we talking about?
And when the No Kings rallies happened, with an estimated 8 million Americans attending in cities across the country at over 3,000 separate demonstrations, De Niro was there, in New York, on stage, saying what he'd been saying for years, but now with 8 million people behind him in the streets. He also said something at those rallies that gets to the core of everything. When the crowds are chanting, "No Kings," what I'm really hearing, as we all know, is "No Trump." There have been other presidents who tested the constitutional limits of their power, but none have been such an existential threat to our freedoms and security. None. Except Trump. None. Except Trump. That is not performance. That is a man who has been paying attention and is calling it exactly what it is. And then came April 1st, 2026, April Fool's Day, the day Trump became the first sitting president in American history to attend Supreme Court oral arguments, walking into the highest court in the land to watch his own administration argue that babies born on American soil to undocumented parents are not American citizens. And sitting in the same room, in seats reserved for the justice's guests, was Robert De Niro. Think about that image for a moment. Donald Trump, Robert De Niro, the same courtroom. Trump there to watch his team defend an executive order trying to gut the 14th Amendment. De Niro there to watch it fail, and fail it did. Even the conservative justices on the court were deeply skeptical of the administration's position. The arguments did not go well.
Going to get DACA legislation through Congress. The Dreamers are going to stay here.
Yeah, so he put it on to them.
Okay.
Right? So in 6 months. So we'll see what he does if it's not dealt with within those 6 months.
So if you were to
we'll see.
If you were to make a bet, do we as a country, you and I are sitting here 5 years down the road, is this country more together or further apart?
I don't know. Maybe some miraculous things will happen, where even Trump will do something that's surprising. I don't think so, but you never know. I'll even then say, okay, I give you that, but I just don't think so.
I spent a lot of time along the Rust Belt in Kentucky, in places that where people put all of their hope in this president, and their livelihood depends on his success.
Right.
Do you feel like Hollywood, you know, those living on the coast like I do, like you do, are too disconnected? We're too disconnected from that pain.
I understand that people feel, even I am hesitant sometimes to endorse somebody because I don't think now it's just an elite Hollywood person doing that. But many of us feel that the right thing has to be done for people. And we really believe that. Someone like Trump doesn't really believe that. He can give lip service to it, but he doesn't really believe it.
But they disagree with you. They tell me, because I've sat with them, I've had dinner with them, and they say, he gets me, and he is standing up for me, and he is putting America first.
You know what the best con artists in the world say, I'm putting you first, and what happens?
So he is the President of the United States of America. Do you want him to succeed?
Of course, I want him to succeed. I don't believe that he will.
The number one piece of legislation you would like to see him support?
The DACA is one.
Okay. So if he works with Congress, signs DACA legislation to get Dreamers to stay here, you will be hopeful?
Yeah, because his action will have spoken louder than his big mouth and words, because all he does is open his mouth and yell, talk, and insult people, and put them down. You can't do anything. That's inexcusable.
Fitting or vomitous way to end a terrible year than hearing Donald Trump use the word panties on television. That should be a war crime. It is amazing that he even has time to say the word panties. Over the last 2 weeks, since we left for break, Trump posted on Truth Social 556 times. Behold, the ramblings of a madman. That is real. He was in an especially festive mood on Christmas Eve. Now, just after our show ended around 12:30 a.m., he threatened to terminate us. He said if network newscasts and their late night shows...
Who likes voter ID? Who likes proof of citizenship? And who likes no mail-in ballots, except for military, illness, disability, or like you're on vacation? Agreed. Agreed. No mail-ins you get thrown into the river, right? We're gonna clean it up.
Donald Trump is crashing out as a major protest just took place in the Capitol building, a big anti-war protest involving veterans and disabled veterans protesting the unlawful and catastrophic war in Iran. They were protesting in the Capitol. It was an incredible act of civil disobedience where they were arrested for peacefully protesting in the Capitol. Obviously, this scared MAGA Mike and Donald Trump, and they had the disabled veterans arrested. I'll show you in a moment what went down here. I'll show you this clip right here of them getting arrested. Let's play this clip. And then here I'll show you more of what this protest looked like. Let me show you this clip right here.
We are veterans and military families demanding an end to the war on Iran. We demand that Congress not authorize 1 cent more to this war. We demand that Donald Trump bring back all U.S. military personnel and stop these illegal and immoral attacks on the Iranian people. We are holding red tulips, a symbol of sacrifice and martyrdom in Iranian culture, to pay tribute to the thousands of Iranians who have been killed as a result of this war.
I'll show you one more clip from the protest itself. You this speaks to a larger issue, of course. Donald Trump's popularity, worse than Richard Nixon now. At the time Nixon resigned, there's never been any person in the White House who has less popularity than Donald Trump. His term is sinking. His term is collapsing. He's humiliated.
At one point, Trump's own Solicitor General had to admit he didn't have answers to the questions being asked. Trump himself walked out early, before the arguments were even finished, apparently unable to sit through the spectacle of his own legal team getting taken apart. De Niro walked out afterward, and reporters from Fox News were waiting. They asked about Trump derangement syndrome. De Niro called it nonsense. He said, people don't like him for a reason, all the terrible things he's done. If he did nice things, people would love him. But he's got a problem. He's damaged. Damaged. That's the clinical, precise actor who studies characters' assessment. Not evil in a cartoonish way. Not stupid. Damaged. Someone with deep psychological wounds that make it impossible for them to govern with anything other than cruelty, paranoia, and the desperate need for validation. And when you've spent decades inhabiting damaged men on screen, studying how they think, how they justify what they do, how they see themselves versus how everyone around them sees them, the diagnosis of damaged carries real weight. Trump responded by calling De Niro wacko former actor. Said he didn't know how small De Niro was, physically and mentally. Trump is 6'2", and De Niro is 5'10", which means Trump spent his midnight posting hours calculating whether he's taller than Robert De Niro. This is what the man running a Middle East war is doing with his time.
Still fun for you as an obligation?
No, I had a nice time.
Nice time, yeah.
We have a couple of breaks, and people get up, go to the bathroom, walk around. It was fine.
The bathroom part was the highlight?
That was one of the highlights.
Did you go to like parties afterwards?
A couple, then I went home.
You won your first Oscar, what, like 49 years ago, right? For The Godfather Part 2?
That's it, yeah.
You remember that feeling or any specifics of that night?
Yeah, I was actually in Italy doing a movie with Bertolucci called 1900, so I got a call about, I guess it was about 6 in the morning or something, their time. It's 9 hours later. And so I was shooting, so.
That's when you found out about the nomination?
Yeah, no, that's when I found out I had won.
Oh, you weren't at the show?
No, yeah.
Oh, wow, you know what, that's big time. That's when you know you're a real movie star, when you don't even go and you win. Were you there the second time you won?
Yes.
You were there. You were there in person.
Yeah.
Were you at all dreading winning because you knew you would have to make a speech?
No, I didn't. That's okay.
That's okay.
They had the camera. Barbara Streisand was saying it the other night at the SAG Awards. They have the camera on you, seeing what your reaction is.
Yeah.
You gotta look stone-faced.
That's where the real acting comes in, right?
Yeah, in a way. But it's nice. It was actually enjoyable. I had a.
The speech went on so long, Christy Noem's dog shot itself. Okay? They do need to hire an orchestra to play him off like the Oscars. At the stroke of 90 minutes, go straight into YMCA and end it. Something was off with his hair tonight, too. Did you notice his hair? It looked like a cloud on top of a sweet potato or something. His flop sweat and his makeup combined to form a frothy, homemade orange Julius on his face. This event, it's supposed to be a joint session of Congress.
Last night, all over Iran, the voices of the Iranian people could be heard cheering and celebrating in the streets when his death was announced. The entire military command is gone as well, and many of them want to surrender into saving their lives. They want immunity. They're calling by the thousands. Combat operations continue at this time in full force, and they will continue until all of our objectives are achieved. We have very strong objectives.
The entire world is laughing at him. What he always said, oh, they're laughing at Biden. No, everybody's laughing at you, Donald. You are pathetic. You are a loser. And you had the most horrific presidency in American history. You and your family will always be known for basically being the worst thing that's ever infected the United States of America. We're seeing it in the polling data right here. Did you all see this yesterday? Harry Enton's report. Wow, is all I'm going to say. Let's play this clip.
Yeah, okay. Americans say inflation is the number one issue facing them right now. And to quote the great Happy Gilmore, according to them, the price is wrong when it comes to the president of the United States. Just take a look at these net approval ratings when it comes to inflation. The president of the United States is hitting all-time record lows in all of these polls, and all of them. NBC came out yesterday, 36 points underwater. CBS came out a few weeks ago, 38 points underwater. Ipsos, Reuters, 43 points underwater. CNN came out earlier this month, 45 points underwater. And taking the cake is UMass Amherst, 47 points underwater across all of these polls. Trump is in his worst position ever on the issue that the American people say over and over and over again is their key number one issue.
Was it always thus?
No, it wasn't this always thus, Mr. Berman. And this is what is so amazing to me. I mean, these shifts that we're just seeing, my goodness gracious, voters on Trump and inflation. In the 2024 election, remember, Trump got reelected to a second term and Joe Biden got pushed to the curb in large part because Americans felt he couldn't handle inflation. Trump was more trusted than Kamala Harris on inflation by 7 points. Look at his net approval right now. You average all those polls on the first side of your screen, 42 points underwater. That is a nearly 50-point shift away from the president of the United States.
A nearly 50-point shift. That's bad. What's worse?
Yeah, what's worse? You think this is bad, a nearly 50-point shift. How about a 70-point shift? I'm laughing because you never see numbers like this. Look at this. Independence on Trump and inflation. In the 2024 election versus Harris, Trump was favored by 10 points. Down he goes. Down he goes. He's down to 60 points underwater on inflation. That is a 70-point shift in a little bit less than 2 years worth of time. John Berman and I are big baseball fans.
Share this video right now because what De Niro is doing is genuinely important and it deserves the amplification. Now let's connect all of this to what is happening in the country right now because De Niro isn't saying these things in a vacuum. He's saying them against a backdrop of specific, documented, verified events that prove his assessment correct. Right now, as of this week, Donald Trump is managing what he calls a successful war with Iran. He claimed victory. He claimed the Strait of Hormuz was reopened. He did a press conference declaring total victory while his own Treasury Secretary was simultaneously saying gas prices might not come down until summer maybe. The strait then closed again. Iran retaliated. Oil is hovering near $100 a barrel. U.S. officials are in Pakistan trying to negotiate. World leaders from 40 countries held a virtual summit to discuss reopening the strait. And Trump was not the one organizing it. France and Britain hosted it because nobody trusts Trump to manage it. And while all of that was happening, the war, the strait, the oil prices, the diplomatic collapse, Trump was also posting about Bruce Springsteen's plastic surgery, attacking Pope Leo XIV as weak on crime, getting blocked by a federal judge from building his $400 million White House ballroom, posting an AI image of himself as Jesus Christ and then deleting it after backlash from his own evangelical base, pardoning 1,600 people, and posting at midnight about Robert De Niro. This is the man De Niro is calling damaged, and every day the news adds more evidence to support the diagnosis. The ballroom alone is worth examining in detail because it perfectly encapsulates everything De Niro has been saying about Trump's character. This man demolished the historic East Wing of the White House, a building that has stood through multiple presidencies that generations of first families have used to build a 90,000 square foot ballroom. During an active war, while gas is over $4 a gallon because the Strait of Hormuz is blocked. A federal judge, appointed by George W. Bush, so nobody can say he's a liberal activist, ruled that the ballroom construction was unlawful because Trump didn't get congressional approval.
Downey was great. He's a great guy, and it was terrific.
He is great, good. And he was very happy to win, and and I think everybody was very happy to see him win. Not that we didn't want to see you win, but you are at this point. You got a couple of those things already, and I feel like you don't even care, honestly.
It's in all seriousness, getting nominated is enough.
That's enough. Yeah.
I mean, because you're saying one person is better than the other, and you can't really say that they're different.
And yet the 5 nominees, we're saying they're better than all of everybody else.
Yeah. Well,
yeah. You and I have something in common. We have both been immortalized on social media by our former president, Donald Trump.
Yeah.
We have, I think this might have been the first time he wrote about you. Robert De Niro, a very low IQ individual, has received he spelled 2 wrong, many shots to the head by real boxers in movies. I watched him last night, truly believe he may be punch drunk, and then he says, at the end, he says, "Wake up, Punchy," he says to you. And that's not the only time, and he moved over to Truth Social. Robert De Niro, whose acting talents have greatly diminished with his reputation now shot, must even use a teleprompter for his foul and disgusting language. So disrespectful to our country. Now, in all fairness to the former president, is that true? Do you have to use a teleprompter when speaking about President Trump? Or are you able to just kind of riff on your thoughts on him? Are almost 100% negative to President Donald J. Trump, MAGA, and the Republican Party. Shouldn't their very valuable broadcast licenses be terminated? I say yes. And to all, a good night. This is the vision of sugar plums that are dancing in his head as he goes to sleep. And then St. Nicholas offered this cheery salutation. He wrote, "Merry Christmas to all, including the many sleazebags who love Jeffrey Epstein." Leave it to Trump to wish Merry Christmas to himself in writing. And then he closed with...
A short time ago, the United States military began major combat operations in Iran. Our objective is to defend the American people by eliminating imminent threats from the Iranian regime, a vicious group of very hard, terrible people. Its menacing activities directly endanger the United States, our troops, our bases overseas, and our allies throughout.
And I will tell you, I'm going to go to Trump's home borough in Queens because, to be honest, it's the only comparison I can think of. Donald Trump is in worse shape on inflation right now than the New York Metropolitans are in the NL East. That is how bad. And what, the Mets just lose their 11th straight game?
At a certain point, you stop counting because there's so many. There's 2 things I just want to point out quickly here. The 2 words that matter so much here are, independence and inflation. These are 2 areas the president did well on in the last election.
He did well. This is what is happening here. The strengths that Donald Trump once had with the electorate, the things that got him elected to a second term, you can wave adios amigos goodbye to them. And why that's so important is even though Trump isn't on the ballot come November, a lot of Republicans in Congress are on the ballot. And if these numbers hold, you can wave adios amigos goodbye. See you later. Certainly that House majority and maybe that Senate majority as well.
Harold, thank you very much.
Even on state regime media, which calls itself Fox, here's what they're saying. Let's play it.
There are people struggling to buy groceries, and that is a serious thing. I have 2 kids.
Even the right-wing podcast bros who were so helpful to Donald Trump getting elected in 2024. And I was so furious at their behavior, how, in my view, they took the goodwill of their audience from being comedians or whatever and betrayed it by making this far right-wing MAGA turn, which maybe they were their whole life and they were just hiding it. But you have people like Andrew Schulz right here. And now here's what he's saying in his latest podcast. Let's play it.
I mean, what's the first thing that this motherfucker did when they're trying to get us to believe in this war that makes no sense? It's like Hegseth is talking some shit about like God wanted us to do this. Like, man, you really got no reason for us to be over there if you going to God immediately. It's like, what'd you say when a comedian's bombing and he goes, give it up to God? So when America's bombing and we go, give it up to God, it's like.
People like Theo Vaughn claim to be comedians, but use their platform to prop up Donald Trump in 2024. Here's what Theo Vaughn is saying now. Play this clip.
And what American is this helping?
Trump raged on Truth Social that the judge is a Trump-hating threat to national security. He argued that the ballroom is a national security necessity because it will contain bomb shelters, missile-resistant steel, drone-proof ceilings, a hospital, and military installations. A ballroom with a bomb shelter during a war that Trump is building instead of paying attention to the war. De Niro would recognize this character. He's played men like this, men who build monuments to themselves while the world burns around them, men who cannot separate their ego from the exercise of power, men who genuinely believe that what is good for them is good for everyone and cannot conceive of the alternative. The only difference is that in the films De Niro made, those characters eventually faced consequences. In real life, there are still 8 million people in the streets demanding it. Trump also this week picked a fight with the Pope, not a symbolic fight. An actual, sustained, multiple-post, all-caps feud with the leader of the Catholic Church. Pope Leo XIII has been critical of the Iran war and has advocated for diplomacy. Trump posted that the Pope is weak on crime and terrible for foreign policy. He told an Italian publication that Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, previously one of his closest European allies, is unacceptable because she called his comments about the Pope unacceptable. He said she's not the same person anymore, and he hasn't spoken to her in a long time. He is picking fights with the Pope and the Italian Prime Minister while managing a war and building a ballroom. De Niro said this president is destroying the country. He said it through tears on a podcast. He said it in a tuxedo at the Tony Awards. He said it outside the Supreme Court on a Wednesday morning to a Fox News camera. He has been consistent, persistent, and documented about it for 7 years.
Our president is such a laughingstock, the Japanese are learning to speak English and Spanish just to keep up with what's going on. But I have to be honest, I don't like this taco thing this Trump always chickens out because it puts him in a corner. I congratulate him for chickening out. I think it was the right thing to do. A lot of presidents, after wasting $40 billion and blowing up a school full of children, would stick with it. They would keep going until their demands for the reasons they started this war were met. They would keep bombing until they knew for sure that Iran would stop enriching uranium and murdering protesters, but not Donald Trump. Our president, he looked at the price of gas, he looked at the polls, he said, oops, and he tucked his pointy little tail between his porky pink legs and tiptoed right back out to the golf course. Mission accomplished, everyone. That takes guts right there, you know? So, I mentioned last night, one of the more prominent and more vocal critics of the war in Iran was Pope Leo, but I guess he's feeling pretty good about it now because today Pope Leo caught up with the Harlem Globetrotters. There he is. There's Holy Moses Malone spinning a ball on his finger. Never has a scene at the Vatican felt more like an episode of The Love Boat than that. In Texas, the Republican-led Board of Education would like to add the Bible to the required reading list at public schools. First, they have to redact that gay love thy neighbor stuff, but then they want to put it in the schools. And if these people had their way, there would be 3 things in every classroom: a Bible, a list of the 10 Commandments, and a painting of the president who broke them all. But we learned today, so much for separation of church and state, that Trump's now former attorney general will not be sworn in on one of those Bibles. Pam Bondi was supposed to testify in front of the House Oversight Committee next week to explain all the shenanigans she shenaned when it came to the release of the Trump-Epstein files. But now she will not be sworn in to answer questions under oath. The assistant attorney general wrote Ms. Bondi no longer holds that office as a result. Because Ms. Bondi no longer can testify in her official capacity, the department's position is that the subpoena
I think we have seen some of the most beautiful parts of this country, in terms of the heart of this country, come to the fore in the past 3 weeks. In the devastation and the recovery of Harvey, and the same with Irma. Mm-hmm. This comes at a time of such division in America. And it seems to me like, and I wonder what you think, that people are yearning for togetherness.
Yeah. And wasting everybody's time about building a wall between Mexico and the States is, come on. We need a lot of money for this. And we're paying for that wall. And somehow later on they'll find a way to say that we had to pay for it. But I know the Mexicans aren't going to pay for it, just on principle. And so we need to really focus on other things. Harvey, Irma, total devastation. Come on.
This seems like a moment to me where America makes a choice. Do we come together, or do we separate further from one another?
Well, you would like everyone to come together, and maybe we will. I don't know. as far as Trump goes, he hasn't changed. And I was always saying, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt that he'll change or do something. He hasn't done anything, as far as I can see, that changes from who he really is.
What about DACA?
There you go. I mean, what about it?
He says
even right-wing propagandists like Alex Jones are saying things like this. Let's play it.
And we're supposed to just sit here and love this crap. It's just poll numbers go straight down, and all the polls show the Republicans are going to lose the midterms in 7 months by a landslide. A disaster. A total and complete disaster. Trump is not that stupid.
And the evidence keeps accumulating that the assessment is correct. Comment below right now. Do you think De Niro has been right about Trump from the beginning? Because the receipts are piling up and I want to know what you think. Let me take you to what I believe is the most important thing De Niro has said in this entire arc. Not the most theatrical, not the most viral, the most important. He said, you have to lift people up. You have to bring them together, period. You can't divide people. You can't win that way. It's a no-win situation. He said that while his voice was cracking, while he was fighting tears, while he was thinking about his own career, a career built on finding the humanity in broken, dangerous, morally complex men, and comparing it to what he sees in this president. And what he concluded is that you can understand damaged men without excusing them. You can study how they operate without enabling them. And you can refuse to be silent about what you see, even when the most powerful office in the world is directed at shutting you up. Trump has called De Niro low IQ, wacko, sick, demented, a crybaby, irrelevant, a failing actor, and suggested he should leave the country. And De Niro has responded to all of it by showing up at the Supreme Court, showing up at the No Kings rallies, tearing up on camera while saying he loves this country, and saying one word, everything, when asked what bothers him about Donald Trump. Everything. That's it. That's his full answer. From a man who has spent his entire life finding the precise word for precisely calibrated emotional moments. The man who delivered the most iconic single-line performances in cinema history couldn't narrow it down further than everything, because everything about Trump is wrong. The war.
Now he's a sheriff from the Old West, the stagecoach leaving at dawn, and if not, the shooting starts. In the meantime, our great military is loading up and resting, looking forward, actually, to its next conquest. Its next conquest? We're doing this again? He talks about war like he's bragging about women with Billy Bush. This is not something we're... And in case you're wondering, America is back. That's right. Just like the McRib, and available for a limited time. So what he's saying is we've won the war. We achieved all our objectives, but we're still going to send a team to negotiate those objectives, and the strait is open, but also closed. It's like having a magic 8-ball as president of the United States. Will we annihilate a civilization? Ask again later. And also, it's not a war, it's an operation. It's not just an operation, it's Operation Epic Fury, which they should change that, and I should drop the RY and just make it Operation FU, because that's what it is. Formal peace talks are expected to begin on Saturday in Pakistan. The United States will be represented in these talks by J.D. Vance, Steve Witkoff, and Jared Kushner. Trump sent Jared so he could have some alone time with Ivanka over the weekend. But the reason Trump sends his son-in-law, who has no official position in our government, is because he was the guy in charge of brokering peace between Israel and Palestine a few years back, and that turned out great. Trump is funny because he keeps claiming we won this easily. We won it, but he's furious with our allies in NATO for not jumping in to help open the strait. He had a 2-hour chat with the head of NATO yesterday that did not go well, according to the people who were in the meeting. They said it was nothing but a tirade of insults. And the Prime Minister of Spain, Pedro Sanchez, this guy's had enough. After the ceasefire agreement, he said the government of Spain will not applaud those who set the world on fire just because they show up with a bucket, that is not going to go over, not too bueno with. But it's hard for Trump to retaliate against Spain because the only oil he can take from them is those little tins of anchovies, so. This war has not done much for Trump's approval rating. According to The Economist, his popularity is somewhere between Bill Cosby and strangers clipping their toenails in public right now. Only 37% approve of Trump, 56% disapprove, 7% are not sure. I don't know who those people are, but they need to get their acts together. And you want to know where Trump's most unpopular? In the very place where he lives, Washington, D.C., his net approval rating is negative 80 points. The closer you get to him, the lower it goes. It's like in his bedroom, 0. He is at a 0 approval rating. Speaking of his bedroom, there's a big surprise from the White House today, even to Donald Trump. Melania emerged from the rubble of the East Wing. She brushed the drywall off her business suit and delivered a doozy of a prepared statement demanding that we stop talking about something no one...
He's made some deal with the deep state to throw the election to the Democrats. That's the only thing this could be.
Yeah, and I can't believe I'm saying let's play it, involving a clip of Alex Jones, but it's instructive. Let's play this other clip. Let's play it.
This is a new Trump, and it's so unhinged. He's the guy that had all these countless bankruptcies for casinos and hotels and, basically these pump and dumps. But then he looks at me, that was shut down by $1.5 billion judgment that tried to shut me down, that was totally rigged, and now he's siding with the people that attacked him against myself and others. So this is the new Trump. He can't be this stupid. He's made some deal with the globalists up above it. No doubt the Rothschilds are his biggest bankers. That's on record. They're the financiers of most of his properties, not the Russians, the Rothschilds out of the UK. And he's sabotaging the midterms. This is a deal. He's not this stupid. And watch what happens in 7 months with the midterms. That is the facts. But, he's all saying, I'm fired. Fired from what? I'm not ever needing access to Trump. I don't, at the end of the day, care about what Trump thinks about me. I wanted Trump to be good. I wanted his policy to be good and not turn against what he stood for.
And one of the biggest critics of the Trump regime right now is Tucker Carlson. And Tucker Carlson said the following about, this reckoning that he's had and how upset he is at himself for supporting Donald Trump. Here, let's play this clip.
You and I and everyone else who supported him, you wrote speeches for him, I campaigned for him. I mean, we're implicated in this for sure.
Yes.
It's not enough to say, well, I changed my mind, or like, oh, this is bad, I'm out. It's like in very small ways, but in real ways, you and me and millions of people like us are the reason this is happening right now.
Yes.
So I do think it's like a moment to wrestle with our own consciences. We'll be tormented by it for a long time. I will be. And I want to say I'm sorry for misleading people. It was not intentional. That's all I'll say. But anyway, the question does present itself immediately. Like, what is this? Was this always the plan? You don't want to be a conspiracy nut, but clearly there were signs of low character. We knew that.
Yes.
But it didn't. There are tons of people of low character who outperform their character. It doesn't have to be
sort of the norm, actually, these days. I would say
I've outperformed my character a lot. I don't have especially high character, right? But you try your best. But what was this? Was this always the plan?
This is the same speech he gave her after Stormy Daniels. She's just regurgitating it. But the bigger question is, what images have been calculating around social media? What is she talking about? And I haven't seen any images. And by the way, while you're explaining how much you didn't know Epstein, any particular reason you can think of that he had a picture of you guys on display at his house? Maybe this is the photo that came with the frame? I don't know. I know that I, for one, when I see this, I think, well, these two don't know each other at all. In this photo from which Ghislaine Maxwell was cropped out. This is quite a plot twist, right? I mean, Melania says she didn't know Epstein. She never flew on his jet, but now she doesn't need to fly on his jet because that $70 million private plane Kristi Noem bought with taxpayer money to fly herself around the country while she was running the DHS? Well, the White House is planning to now keep that on property to be used by cabinet officials and Melania. The plane has a queen bed, a kitchenette, several flat-screen TVs, and cream-colored leather seats. J.D. Vance just got a chubby when he heard this. The cream color? This would make Donald and Melania the first couple in American history to have separate bedrooms and separate planes. So congratulations to them. Meanwhile, poor Kristi Noem is back to flying Spirit Airlines. And speaking of flying, there is a, I don't know if you know about this, but it's not getting much attention, but there's a congressman from Tennessee named Tim Burchett who's been making the rounds saying he has seen and heard definitive proof of alien life on Earth, and that the facts, if we knew them, would set the planet on fire and cause the country to come unglued. And while you might think that revelation would be compelling enough in and of itself, the right-wing cableverse is already past the idea of whether or not aliens are among us and onto whether male extraterrestrials are manly enough.
Whether you believe in them or not, everybody has heard about beings from another planet, and the descriptions are almost always the same. They're smaller, big eyes, big heads, weak, stringy little arms, pale, no gender, and usually they're feminine. And they always look the same. You never have seen an alien peeing standing up in a movie or like yucking it up with his alien buddies. That's never happened. And for some reason, the lines between gender are always blurred with aliens, which I think is very odd.
Well, there's only one way to get to the bottom of this. We have to shoot Rob Finnerty into space to find out. That is quite a take. I mean, he's never seen an alien pee standing up in a movie? My God, man, what kind of weird sexual fetish videos are you looking for?
No, I like what Newsom has done because he's trolled him and he's fought fire with fire, and that's what you have to do. And he called him an invasive species, which is what he is. So he's not. He's a thing that doesn't understand. Trump does not understand anything about humanity, people. He has no empathy. I don't know what he is, but he's an alien, and he wants to hurt this country. It's something deeply psychological in him. He wants to hurt people. He wants to hurt this country. He doesn't care. And what saddens me the most, upsets me the most, is that people follow him and they think and they kiss his ass and they look up to him. And I don't understand it. I don't understand the people in his cabinet, some of them, Rubio, how they can live with themselves after what they've allowed him to do and not stood up. Even walk out of the room when what they did with Zelensky the first time. Rubio, looking at his face, they got the camera on him. If he had balls, he would have walked out.
The ballroom, the pardons, the Pope feud, the AI Jesus picture, the Springsteen posts, the Midnight Truth social rants calling 82-year-old actors low IQ. Everything. And Trump's response, the Midnight Post, the Rosie O'Donnell comparison, the get on a boat suggestion, the extremely low IQ claim is itself the clearest possible demonstration that De Niro is right. Because a man who has nothing to fear from criticism doesn't spend his midnight hours posting about an actor who called him damaged. A man who is genuinely confident in his record doesn't compare an emotional Hollywood speech to a child crying. A man who is doing well doesn't need to suggest that one of America's most celebrated artists should leave the country. You only rage at the things that hit the nerve. You only post at midnight about the people who are telling the truth about you out loud. And Robert De Niro has been telling the truth about Donald Trump out loud for 7 years. Trump will call De Niro low IQ again. De Niro will show up somewhere else. At another rally, another courthouse, another camera, he'll choke up again, he'll say everything again, and Trump will post about it at midnight again, and 8 million people will be in the streets again. And the Straight will close and open and close again. And the ballroom will keep getting blocked by judges. And the Pope will keep pushing back. And everything will keep being the right answer. Share this video right now. Subscribe to this channel and join the membership. $9 a month, link is below, and it keeps this independent journalism going every single day. Because Robert De Niro is right, the country needs people who are paying attention and saying so out loud. And this channel is one of them. Trump called him low IQ. De Niro said everything. One of those two men is running the country. The other one is trying to save it.